This is going to be interesting and fun. We need a laugh here or there. Joel Gilbert is our guest this hour. Joel is one of the most remarkable filmmakers. And I told him earlier today when we talked that his documentary on Obama, Dreams of My Real Father, was, in my view, as good a documentary film as I have ever seen. And I meant that. And what Joel said was fascinating. He said, I agree. And well said. Joel, welcome back.
Great to be here, Jeff. Thanks so much.
You bet. That's a tough act to follow, Dreams of My Real Father. But we've got another character in the White House, so that's a lot of ground to pick through.
Well, look, Donald Trump also around the same time was questioning Obama's background. Also, he was asking about, well, why doesn't this guy release his college records? Why doesn't he release his birth certificate? Why can't we see his state Senate records in Illinois?
Of course.
It was very strange, and Donald Trump kind of came to the political forefront by asking these questions. And I went a little further. I went out to Hawaii twice as many times as all the mainstream media put together.
Thank you. Exactly right. Oh,
and I started asking questions and went to libraries and talked to people, and it was from the get-go, it was very obvious that Obama's story that his father was a goat herder from Kenya and he was going to bring everybody together because of his unique background, and he was someone that would be a generational candidate to just be a full disclosure, transparency, cut the deficit in half.
Right.
It was clear that he was a complete fraud, and that his real background that I discovered, that his real father, the man who admittedly, Obama admits in his book, Dreams from My Father, he admits he was raised by Frank Marshall Davis, the Russian agent who was a Communist Party propagandist and Soviet agent during the Cold War, and he was radicalized by Davis. He even admits this in his book, and I took it a step further, and I think I proved with a mountain of evidence that Frank Marshall Davis was Obama's real biological father as well. And Obama set out on a mission in his life to prove that he could do even better than his dad or as good with this radicalism in the little-known world of American Marxism. He went back to Chicago, where Davis came from, and joined all the radical movements. And he was, throughout his life, very comfortable with anti-American extremists, and they were comfortable with him. And I think my film, to this day, it holds everything holds true, that Obama was a stealth radical that pretended to be this mainstream politician to get elected, and then threw the voters under the bus and pursued a radical agenda that nobody voted for.
Oh, absolutely. I was almost cheering when I was watching your film. That film opened the door. I just think it's a shame that every American wasn't able to see that film. It was the truth.
Well, I sure tried. I mean, it was seen by a lot of people, but even some of the main people were afraid to talk about it because
what
it was
is this fear thing?
It was questioning Obama's background. Roger Ailes, we showed him the film before it came out, and his jaw dropped, and he said, this is incredible, but we can't touch this. That's what he said.
Wow.
A lot of senators, congressmen had seen it. I remember Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin. I was at an event that he was speaking. This was years ago, and he walked off the stage, and I said, Senator Johnson, I enjoyed your speech. I want to introduce myself. He said, you don't have to introduce yourself. I'm your biggest fan. I've watched Dreams from My Father 10 times.
Oh, my.
So people saw it, but they really were afraid to talk about it.
What is it? I don't understand the fear. I don't understand it. Here you serve up the facts, reality on a plate, irrefutably, and people are afraid of the truth? We're in trouble.
The conservatives, the mainstream, were always afraid that if you question Obama's background, you'll be accused of racism. Hillary did it even against Trump in the debate. She said, you questioned this. But I'll tell you what, the film did move the bar quite a bit. I can tell you when it came out in 2012, people would say, wow, this just blew me away, but can it really be true? Because if it was true, Fox News would have covered it, or
Oh,
CNN
yeah,
would have covered it.
That must drive you nuts to hear that kind of talk.
Well,
Oh.
I'll tell you what happened though. This was at the beginning. They said CNN would have covered this, or surely Fox News. So it just can't be true. Guess what? 2-3 years later, people would say, "Of course CNN would never touch this. Of course Fox would be afraid of this."
Correct.
So it really did. I saw the pendulum swing, and I think the film had an effect because it helped people, as you did from watching it. It answered the questions, and we understood how and why America had been had and who this guy was.
Yeah.
And it answered a lot of questions. And I think all those people that saw the film, I never talked to anybody that only saw it once. I never talked to anybody that didn't show it to a friend.
You got it. There you go. You even gave the thing away at the end.
Yeah, we had an investor, and we trying to get a film deal and sent out a couple million copies in swing states. And the FEC went after me. I was up for investigation and fines, and it's a pretty famous case. I have a media exemption because I'm a filmmaker. I'm like CNN or Michael Moore. I don't have to report my investors or anything. Right. I'm not, a political party.
Right.
And they put me up for this big investigation, and it finally, after a year, it got shot down, but it was a vote of 3-3. The Republicans voted not to forward this for further,
3-3?
3-3. So the Republicans, there's 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats on the FEC Federal Election Commission, and the Republicans said, no, this has already been decided. This is a media filmmaker. You can't investigate him or fine him for making a movie.
Right.
The 3 Democrats voted yes in favor. And so it died because it was 3-3, but the 3 Republicans were livid. They all put out separate statements saying that just the Democrats voting to suppress and punish a filmmaker, just the fact that they voted for it, even though it didn't go through, cast a terrible, chill upon free speech.
Oh, it did, and it's gotten worse. Let me ask you to do this. Look back on Obama's 8 years. This is a hard question. How much damage has he done to this country with those 8 years?
Obama was on a mission. He was on a mission of hate. The mission was to disrupt, attack, and destroy middle-class America. This was the goal of the Marxists all these years. They felt that the middle class supported the free market system. But without the middle class going to work, going to church, paying taxes, that the capitalist free market system can't exist. So in order to collapse capitalism and eliminate the free markets and rebuild this perfect utopian socialist world, they had to destroy the middle class to do it. So all of those policies, everything from gay marriage, transgenderism, bringing in the illegals, supporting Iran, the whole program was to degrade and usurp and harm the American middle class, the economy, the Obamacare. Everything was meant to depress and harm the middle class America. It was
a communist invasion, attack, an assault on the fabric of this country.
It was a leftist assault that kind of continues to this day.
He's still
Obama
at it.
He interfered in 2012. People forget he interfered in the free elections by using the IRS to suppress conservatives, to prevent conservatives from organizing, decimated the Tea Party movement with the IRS, and then he used the DOJ and FBI to interfere again in 2016. This is a coup d'etat by the radical left that hid Obama's background.
Correct.
That in fact he was a radical. He was no friend of black people. I interviewed a lot of black folks in my film. There's no place like Utopia. They all said in Chicago, everywhere, Detroit, everything got worse under Obama.
Yeah.
So this was a nightmarish 8 years, and had Hillary won, there'd be nothing left of the United States.
No, I agree. It's astounding to me that we survived Obama, frankly.
Well, it took Reagan 10 years or 10 years to recover from Jimmy Carter, from all the disastrous policies, the economy, Iran. It may take 10 years, 8 years of Trump, hopefully 4 years of Pence or whatever, at least to to reestablish our relations with our allies, reestablish the American economy, get rid of all this leftist nonsense that penetrated the government, all the appointments, the judiciary. It's a long road to undo the damage.
Obama, I had a young woman back then who went to another high school who was a friend of his, hung out with his group in Hawaii. I can't remember her name now, but it was a very fascinating interview. She told the whole story about what he was like in high school, how he hung out with he was gay in high school, hung out with the rich white men who went over to the islands and drugged. The whole thing was such a lie. It was astounding to me. His state, you made the point earlier already, his records as state senator, gone.
Yeah, you're not allowed to see them. His college
I don't
record.
even think they exist anymore. I think they're just gone.
Yeah.
Destroyed or buried somewhere.
It was, you use the right word, it's astounding that the press, the 100,000 reporters in this country, and they collectively together colluded to hide Obama's real background and his real agenda.
They gave him such a ride. Oh, man. Yeah. Talk about a free pass. Yeah, when I saw your film, I honest to God thought that was going to turn it. I said, there's no way. He can't survive that. And yet, somehow he did. And I guess it's part of that reflex. People are afraid of being called racist. What is this fear-based society we live in? My God, who are the biggest racists in America? They're not white people. They're minority people. They're activist minority groups for the most part.
Well, the leftists are racist.
They can get away with anything. The media gives them a pass, too, as you well know.
Yeah. Well, the fear is real because you can do the slightest thing or say the slightest thing or make a bad joke, and you can lose your job. You can be excommunicated.
It's worse now. It's getting worse.
It got worse. It got worse.
Yes. Even with Trump, it got worse. Now, what I'm seeing with Trump is a conflicted man. His year-and-a-half campaign was often extraordinary. He dialed in populist America like no one that I've ever seen in my years in this business and watching our country. And then when he was elected, he changed. And I think somewhere, somehow, somebody sat him down and told him how the game is played. Something happened. He still, when he goes out on the road now, he'll slip back into that incredible populist communication talent that he has. He reaches out to people. And yet when he's back in the White House surrounded by this group of shocking neocons and banksters and all the rest of them, he doesn't talk like the same guy. So there's like I say, there's a big conflict. I don't know what it is. I couldn't quantify it any better than I have, which was very clumsy. But he's not the same man. Is it a betrayal? Did he do it on purpose? Or are the rules just that different that he's had somehow to mitigate the man he was as a contender? I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Well, I think I do.
Lay it out here.
All right, so we can move on now. It's my new film is called Trump: The Art of the Insult, and this is a 95 minutes compilation of everything that went down during the campaign and into his presidency. And first of all, it's hilarious. 95 minutes, you can't stop laughing. But it's also this tremendous lesson in marketing and branding and how Trump was able to stand up to all the Republicans and Hillary and the media. And you really get to know Trump for the first time. I thought I knew Trump. I thought I understood him. I studied him. I talked to people who knew him for 30 years. I worked on the Ted Cruz campaign. I was analyzing Trump. Yeah, and so I thought I knew Trump. Only when I made this film, I understood Trump. So anyone, you can see the trailer is hilarious. Yeah, you got to see it.
I'm going to play the trailer now. It's only $2.50.
Yeah.
But let me urge all of you to look at the trailer, because when you see the visual Trump and hear the words, it's magnified by 20, 30 times. You get to see Joel gives us a look into Donald Trump that I don't think anybody else could. This man is a master filmmaker. He knows where the important parts are, And you get a real taste of that in the trailer. I'll play it now, but keep in mind, you're going to hear it. You're not going to be able to hear and see it. But I hope all of you will make this film part of your immediate or near immediate geopolitical agenda. You've got to see this film. So here we go.
Okay.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
And they said that wasn't politically correct. Who cares?
You haven't been called. Go back to Univision.
I think Jeb is a nice person. He's very low energy. I'm not used to that kind of a person.
Throw them out. Throw them out into the cold. Don't give them their coat. No coats.
Lyin apostrophe Lion dead.
I have never seen a human being eat in such a disgusting fashion.
The most dishonest human beings. These people right here. Look at all the cameras.
So disgusting.
This socialist slash communist. Crazy Bernie. He's crazy as a bedbug.
Who, Pocahontas?
The Indian.
Very offensive.
I'm sorry about that. Pocahontas? Crooked Hillary, Bob. She's been crooked from the beginning.
Crooked Hillary. Politicians are really dishonest. Yeah.
Donald Trump alleges that my dad was involved in assassinating JFK.
This had nothing to do with me, except I might have pointed it out.
This guy was sweating so badly. Thank God he has really large ears, the biggest ears I've ever seen. Because they were protecting him.
I'm trying to be nice. You know, I'm working hard to be nice.
He was begging for my endorsement. I could have said, Mitt, drop to your knees. He would have dropped to his knees.
He put glasses on so people will think he's smart. It just doesn't work. You know, people can see through the glasses.
I'll make 3 or 4 major speeches. She makes a speech for 15 minutes. She goes home, goes to bed.
We live off Chinese manufacturing. That's because when you say we, you are stupid.
Repeat after me.
Donald, you're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
We will make America great again. Go home to mommy. Tell her to tuck you in bed. And your mother is voting for Trump. She's voting for Trump. True.
Okay, there you go.
Trump, the art of the insult. You really got to take a look at this one. Artoftheinsult.com. Okay? Go look at the trailer. You've got to see the facial expressions. By the way, just crackerjack editing again, Joel. You've just...
Thanks, Jeff.
That's an art. Boy.
Yeah, well, let me comment on what you said before. I think this is the authentic Donald Trump. You're talking about someone, let's talk about Ronald Reagan. He came into office not having been governor of California for about 16 years.
Right.
So when he came into the White House, he actually had very few people that were loyalists, that knew politics, that were around him. Caspar Weinberger, a couple of others. And actually George Bush had a lot of contacts and people, and the Bush people wormed their way into the Reagan administration and actually held back a great deal of Reagan's agenda for the first couple of years until he slowly realized what was going on and got rid of them. I think we saw a similar thing that Donald Trump came into office and the establishment said, well, let's have Reince Priebus as the, chief of staff, and he'll be able to bring the Congress in, and let's have, McMaster instead of Flynn. And Trump was trying to be a great, executive, and I can bring all these people together.
Joel, trying to please people as well? Isn't there a side of him that wants to be liked and he wants to please people?
I think that exists for every
it's a normal
politician.
human trait. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think when you see this film, you really understand how Trump is often playing people, and he's kind of the master controller. They don't realize they're being played. It goes from the tweets where before bed he throws out a few tweets so that the morning news he can control what they're talking about. He gets out of bed, or before he gets out of bed, he throws out a few more, and that's what they're going to talk about the rest of the day. One of the funniest things you'll see in the film is how the protesters, Bernie Sanders, Hillary protesters, came to every Trump rally, and they'd call him a racist and wave signs. And Trump would, when they started protesting, he'd smile and say, look at the protesters. Look at them. And then he'd say, get him out of here. It used to be, you're fired on The Apprentice. He'd say, get him out of here. And the crowd would yell, Trump, 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 like Jerry Springer, Jerry, but Trump, Trump. And the cameras would cut in from all over the country. So the protesters didn't realize that they're what brought Trump $2 billion worth of free earned media. And so a lot
of
this
stuff... Was it that much? $2 billion worth. Wow.
Yeah.
No, that was absolute genius.
But I see, once you see this film, you'll realize he's kind of doing the same thing. I don't think he's really compromising so much as he is playing different sides so he can then get his way. We saw that with the DACA thing. He offered DACA knowing that the Democrats wouldn't go for it, so that he could come back later and get them over on his side and push his own agenda. So I see him as much more of a master manipulator of the media and the political scene than people realize.
So he learned a lot from The Apprentice about the media. That was a great training ground. That was really good experience.
Well, not just that, Jeff. I mean, he was not a real estate guy when he ran for president. He was an entertainment business guy. For 30 years, he'd been promoting professional wrestling, professional boxing. He owned a USFL football team, Miss Universe, Miss America. So he'd done and seen it all when it came to marketing and
showbiz. Come on, he's a showbiz master. Yeah.
Yeah, this stuff was easy. Politics is easy compared to that stuff, believe me.
Very interesting. So you have, obviously, you work for Ted Cruz. What was that like when you were working for Cruz? You were trying to get stuff on Trump. I don't mean dirt necessarily, but it's stuff. You got to have stuff. So what was that like?
Well, I wasn't trying to get stuff on Trump. What I was doing was trying to encourage Ted, and at the beginning it was successful. At least he started down that path to compete. I thought that Cruz could outcompete Trump in terms of marketing because Cruz was younger.
Oh, that's
Cruz
interesting.
was younger. He had he was more articulate. He knew the issues. He was better known. I said, let's market Ted and his positions and his personality so people get to know him and compete. Unfortunately, the campaign was a large organization, and the larger it got, the more difficult it was to get him to beat Ted Cruz. They set up a traditional campaign with, organizations in every state, chairmen in every county, and they didn't have a good core message. It was just like, I was Ted Cruz, so please support me. He was the anti-establishment hero at the beginning. He was the outsider candidate. He stood up to Obamacare, the filibuster. He read Green Eggs and Ham on the Senate floor. So the election was his to lose, and I told him that. But he wanted to be Jeb Bush. He wanted to be this establishment candidate. So Donald Trump came along and said, hey, if you don't want to be Ted Cruz, I'll be Ted Cruz. And so
that's very interesting. Yeah. Hold on, Joel. Oh, right there, I got to pause. We got to do this little bit of business. We'll come right back with Joel Gilbert in a minute. Okay, welcome back. Talking to Joel Gilbert about his new documentary, Trump, The Art of the Insult. Now, I got to go back to Ted Cruz. There was a point in the campaign season that I thought I was supporting Trump. I bought into all of it. I pushed hard. I didn't like Cruz. He seemed greasy and oily to me. I just didn't like him. His presence wasn't. Maybe it was a change that he decided to go a different path than you suggested. And I wonder if he had it to do over again if he would have listened to Joel Gilbert more.
Well, Ted had good instincts. He really played that role of the outsider, and he conditioned the electorate for a couple of years to want this outsider candidate. And in his defense, at the beginning, he was going with the program, and doing quite a few things I suggested, but a lot of the donors, especially the donor class, were all saying, look, we got to beat Hillary or we're finished. We don't know if maybe you've been pigeonholed too much to the far right. Maybe the press has said you're too much of a firebrand, you're too right-wing, you can't beat Hillary. I want to take a look at Rubio. I want to take a look at Scott Walker. So the donor class was kind of holding back, and I think that influenced Cruz to say, well, I want to show that I can get the middle ground as well. And he set up this establishment campaign with these very much establishment everything. So he stopped being Ted Cruz. I kept telling him, beat Ted Cruz. It's time to beat Ted Cruz. Be that rabble rouser, that outsider. That's what people want. I mean, I'd been showing my film Dreams from My Real Father, and there's no place like Utopia around the country. And I knew that the Republican base had shifted far right of the establishment. And that's who would elect Ted Cruz. So I think Ted Cruz won the election. It was just in the person of Donald Trump that said, okay, I'll be the Ted Cruz guy since you want to be Jeb Bush.
That's a very interesting observation.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I can't go back and tell you when, but there was a point that Ted Cruz took a misstep. And I felt it on the media, and he never recovered from it. And you're describing it perfectly.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of missteps and missed opportunities. I mean, one of the first things that, just started driving me crazy from the get-go, he was the front-runner, number one guy at CPAC in 2015, and I helped write a speech for him. It was fantastic. I took the speech, I went to the back of the room with the press, and I showed it to a couple of my friends. I said, this is going to be fantastic.
Right.
Cruz comes out, doesn't read the speech. He tells a few stories, nobody claps, he walks off.
Oh, my.
And Scott Walker got all the attention, and I ran up to the communications director of Cruz, and I said, why didn't he read the speech? They said, we couldn't get his attention. The Senate staff had him busy until late last night. He didn't have a chance to look at it. So Cruz had this day job as a senator, and that often kept him from preparing properly and taking advantage of a lot of opportunities, unfortunately, from the beginning.
Did he have good, strong instincts that somehow were just not followed? Or did he not really know who he was in terms of the mass media spotlight that he was under?
No, Ted had great instincts. Ted is authentic. He is a great guy. He's a strong conservative. He is the real deal. The problem is that anybody can have is he's not a marketing guy. He's a lawyer. The same with Barack Obama was a lawyer. Now, Barack Obama knew that he didn't know anything about marketing. He said, get me Axe. Get me Axelrod. And I'm going to live and die by Axe. He's the guru. He's going to show me the promised land. Ted didn't have the understanding. He was too much of a micromanager, and he simply said, well, I'm going to surround myself with these establishment guys, and I'm a senator half the time, so I'm just going to kind of follow what they do. And he didn't, everything I told him he agreed with, and he wanted to do it, and he ended up kind of just being pushed in the direction of an establishment candidate.
He got establishment / boring. The pop, the sizzle, it went away. I don't know where it went. Am I right?
Correct. I thought the campaign was going to get rid of me, or they were going to say, look, Joel, we appreciate you very much, but we're kind of sick and tired of you hammering us that we're not doing anything, that we're not marketing the candidate. Thanks very much. They never got rid of me, and I said, look, I made a commitment to Ted. I'm going to stay there to the very end. No matter what, I'm going to try to get him to the finish line. Right. But it just got so big and he was busy as a senator, he didn't have the vision to bring in and follow a marketing strategy, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate. If he'd have listened to you, things might be much different now.
I'll agree.
Yeah. I wonder who you're going to work for next time around. Anybody approach you?
Well, what I went over and brought some of the ideas that Ted had agreed to but never executed. I brought them over and worked with Roger Stone's PAC, and I produced a film on Danny Williams, Bill Clinton's black son, that was seen by 50 million people, and that we think that might have had an impact. And I had the Super Trump ad that came out in Times Square, got millions in advertising. So I did take those ideas over, and I think it helped the Trump Super PAC.
Oh, it had to. What amuses me is the idea of Trump laying in his bed at night in his pajamas.
Yeah.
And he's got his smartphone. And he says to himself, what can I give him tonight? What can I shake him up with? He's got to be laughing at some of this stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of it. He had a good time. You could see how much fun he was having the whole time during the campaign. You can see it in my film, Art of the Insult. And the reason people were won over by him is because he spoke from the heart. He was deeply authentic. He said what he said and he meant what he said, even if it was a little off the wall sometimes. And with Hillary, you could never really figure out what she was saying, and if you did figure it out, you didn't believe her. So,
well said.
Trump's having a good time. He played everybody. He's still playing the media, and I think the rest of the country that understand him are really enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. How's he going to handle this summit with Kim Jong-un? But bigger than that, you've got Beijing and President Xi right behind him. I mean, they're going to be in the same room together, even if they're not physically. This is a big world summit. This isn't just North Korea, Donald Trump.
Right. Well, look, Trump is given the task of digging America out of 20, 30 years of failed policies from Clinton to
loser,
Bush to Obama, allowing North Korea to develop nuclear weapons. Don't forget, a lot of people don't know this. I've written about this, but the 1.5 billion in cash that Obama sent to Iran. I can tell you from my sources that there's only one country in the world that needs cash to operate. The agreement with Iran meant that Iran had access to international finance and banks. They had no need for cash.
Right.
Only North Korea needed cash because they've been cut off from international banking system. So there's no question, and I've talked to a couple of good sources about this, and all of the information is that at the last minute Iran demanded cash, Obama agreed, and they shipped that cash to North Korea to continue the Iranian nuclear program during the 10-year period where they weren't allowed to develop nukes. So Obama's nuclear deal with Iran actually created two nuclear powers. Remember, all the testing and blowing up of nuclear weapons and testing in North Korea started after Obama delivered all the cash. So both North Korea and Iran are becoming nuclear powers because of Obama and the deal he made with Iran. So Trump has to dig America out from the disaster of 20, 30 years of this ridiculous policy. So when you say how's he going to handle it, he's going to have to try to pull off some miracles and use his skill as a savvy American businessman. And
he's going up against a 6,000-year-old culture that plays the game as well as anybody can, the Chinese. That's what's really behind this. Well,
true. He's up against a great deal, but I'd rather him be the person dealing with them than, of course, Hillary Clinton would never have accomplished anything.
No. Okay. Now, today, after a year and 3 months in office, something like that, I am sending, he had Mattis with him, I'm sending the military to the border. I'm paraphrasing here. Yeah. We are going to control our border with our military. If he had done that in the first week that he was in office, he would have gone, his position in history would have been secure as a great American patriot. He did it. Okay, it took him 15 months. We don't know how many troops he's going to send. I've been telling people this on this program, Joel, for a long, long time. We don't need a wall. We need the American military with shoot-to-kill orders. You give them 2 weeks. Beginning in 2 weeks, anybody caught will be shot. That's it. Nobody's going to come. The military's there. They've got drones. They've got satellites. They've got technology we wouldn't even know about. Trump is now sending the military to the border. I hope it's the whole damn border. And pull some of these troops out of the 165 different countries that American military bases and military personnel are in, that there's no reason for them to be there. They should be home protecting this country. If he rides this like he could pull his ratings up 30, 40%.
Yeah, look, I'll agree with most of that. I think Trump, I thought he had a mandate when he came into office, especially you look at his inauguration speech. I wanted him to come in, fire Comey immediately, and institute a number of changes. One of the lines I gave Ted that he won the first debate with was, the line was, on my first day in office, I will cancel every illegal executive order of Barack Obama on my first day in office. And,
that was your line? That's a great line.
Yeah, it was a great line.
Yeah.
And he won the first debate with that one, and it was such a good line. 3 debates later, Rubio was using it. But I think Trump did have a slow start. He didn't kick ass from the beginning, and it took him some time to really get comfortable. And, of course, he was threatened immediately by Comey that you're under investigation for colluding with Russia.
How could he, and he had to know, how could he not have fired Comey? And then we got Mueller. How could that go on this long?
I think at the beginning there was an idea that they could cooperate or get the cooperation of the Republican establishment to achieve an agenda. So Trump...
Well, that was because of Priebus, most likely.
No, there was a number of... Priebus was the tool, but the establishment came to him and said, we'll work on your agenda, we'll get it all through, we want to accomplish all these things, but we want you to do ABC and not do ABC. So Trump as someone who's an MBA, you want to get everybody under the same tent and see if you can work together. I think that was his approach initially, and it took him a little while to realize that there are no friends, and you need to execute the plan on your own for the people that elected you. And I think he's finally getting around to it. That
does seem to be what he's doing now. He's finally beginning to do it his way.
Right.
And I hope I'm right.
That's what it appears to be. We're a little disappointed about some of the slow start, but look, we're talking about somebody that was holding fundraisers for Chuck Schumer 5 years ago.
Oh God, I know.
So we had a lot of concern that, is his inner Democrat going to come through once he's elected? So overall, I'll give him a B on executing the agenda. We have to be thankful for that.
All right, I'll go B minus. Okay. But the big thing today was, I'm sending the military to the border. Until, and they're going to be there, he said, until the wall is built. All right, now I don't think there's going to be a wall built. That means I hope that the military is there permanently, at least quasi-permanently. We need to control that border.
Well, we do. I don't think we're going to have any shoot to kill like you were saying, but I think they can do two things. They can prevent the crossings, capture people very quickly, and change the law to be able to send them back immediately, and that will discourage any more people from coming. By the way, during the campaign, remember Obama invited all these so-called minors to come to the country, and they put them in these
a children's crusade. That was Obama. Yes.
Yeah, that was all Obama. And they wouldn't, Cruz went down to one of these centers to go in to check out what was going on. They wouldn't let him in. Can you imagine a U.S. senator? And
wow.
I believe that most of the people that came were probably in their early 20s. They were probably MS-13 gang members. That's why they wouldn't let anybody look at them even or talk to them.
Oh, they were thugs. Come on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
These were not 8-year-old children. These were all gang members that Obama was then disseminating around the country to create mayhem.
Right. When I say shoot to kill, I'm not saying let's go down there and kill them all. I'm saying let's have a policy. And that policy is, after X number of weeks, anyone trying to assault this country will be shot at. And now, I'm telling you right now, the psychology of this will work. It will work. Illegal aliens in this country every day kill 12 American citizens of all colors, all creeds, all races.
I believe it here in California, 40% of all the inmates are illegals.
You bet.
Prison.
You got it. Now, we have to get serious about this. And let's say the American military, and I don't expect you to agree. I don't expect anyone to agree. This is my view. If the American military went down and took control of that border, and we had to shoot some MS-13 people trying to get in, 3 or 4, I don't think that that's going to be a big loss. Not when you lose 12 Americans minimum a day. And the bill we're paying for these people is ungodly. So,
well, the drug dealers, the drug mules.
Come on, how many lives are being destroyed? You can't count them.
You've got there's also OTMs, we call them, other than Mexicans, and you've got...
yeah. Thank you.
You've got Syrians coming on Venezuelan fake passports.
You got Somalians, you got Syrians, you got Asians, you got a lot of unsavory people from those particular cultures coming in here. It's too damned easy. We've got to get serious about this. We can't play games. Trump can't go out and look at wall prototypes. He's not going to get the money. They're going to drag this thing out. That's why he's...
Let's mention that the biggest challenge Trump has had and has is the ongoing assault by the Democrat Party and their allies in the leftist media complex upon American democracy.
Nonstop.
Don't forget, the day he was elected, 2 million anti-democracy protesters took to the streets, and the leading Democrats called for resistance. That's a military term. Democrat term is opposition. They said resistance, which is a call to violence, and that's why we saw this guy, James Hodgkinson. We saw liberal violence, where he tried to murder all the Republican leadership. And the left has a passion for destruction, and they want to destroy this president, and they're happy to destroy the country in the process.
And who is living, less than 2 miles as the crow flies from the White House in a big mansion now? Who moved into that mansion with him? Wasn't Samantha Power? I can't remember.
No, it's Valerie Jarrett
moved in. Yeah,
she moved in with Barry, Barry Hussein Obama Davis. And there's still there's also a battle.
Oh, they're plotting. They're working cheek by jowl with the communist left here in this country. Count on it. Nothing has changed. He's extremely active in the shadows. I believe this.
Well, there's a battle for the Democrat Party. We see Hillary doesn't want to go away. Of course, Perez is her guy running the Democrat Party. And then you have Bernie Sanders and his gang. So they're going to have out their side of the fence. But Trump should follow his agenda. And if you see Trump, The Art of the Insult, you'll really understand Trump for the first time. It really was an eye-opener for me. I still watch the film, even though I've seen it 1,000 times. It's still an eye-opener. It's very, very funny.
I can tell. I can't wait to get a copy of it. You're such a master at your craft. It's not just making films, it's communication. And you communicate with that medium like few others I've ever seen. So congratulations. You're welcome. I used to produce films. I'm 12 years a television news director, producer, anchorman. I've been there. I know when I see something good, I know immediately.
I'm with you. So anyway, the Trump, The Art of the Insult, latest film, artoftheinsult.com. And I still do research on Obama. I'm still in touch with certain people, including his best friend, called him Ray. His real name is Keith, from high school. He wrote about him in his book. He's in Corcoran State Prison, and I got a lot of information from him about Obama and his relationship with Frank Marshall Davis, who he called Pop. And he told me the story of how Obama found out. He didn't know until he was in high school that Davis was his real father. But regardless of the biology, what was more important that Keith Kakagawa reiterated to me, as Obama wrote in his own book, that Frank Marshall Davis, a Soviet agent, was Barack Obama's ideological mentor. It was his
all through his teenage years.
All through his teenage years, so much so that Obama wrote in his own book, I went to Occidental to study with Marxist professors. You don't really do that when you go to a exclusive prep school in Hawaii unless you've gone through something and been radicalized.
Yes, sir. And, absolutely. All right, I got a question here. We only have 2 minutes. Hillary, she's not going away. She doesn't talk like someone who's going away. Is she going to try again?
The Clintons never quit. Hillary never quits. She's never going to quit. She's only going to quit when they haul her off to jail, or they.
That's what I've been saying.
Or she slips and falls down a pyramid and hits her head, and she doesn't, get up again. Hillary has no intention of going away. I think she has a fantasy that somehow Trump will be impeached because of some Russia collusion, and she will be lifted to the ascend to the presidency. She's been trying to become president since she was about 25.
Right.
First, so she has an agenda which is so far left and so radical. She was a Chicago Alinsky, don't forget.
Yes. Yes.
You gotta don't relax and take your eyes off Hillary.
I have been telling people over and over again, she's not going away. She's going to run again. She's talking
Clintons,
like someone who's going to run again.
Yeah,
just listen to her voice.
They're still very powerful. A lot of people are afraid of them.
Oh, they've got markers all over the place. I keep saying that too. They've got a lot of power.
Not only that, but don't forget they have hundreds of millions of dollars at their disposal.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
Probably more.
How many billions disappeared in Haiti? 4 or 5 billion?
Exactly. So she remains very powerful. If let's say if the election, were next year, and she declared her candidacy, she'd be the number one Democrat.
Who else do they have?
If only for name recognition.
Who else do they have?
Until they knock her out, she's not going anywhere.
Thank you, Joel, for validating my instinct.
Absolutely,
on that. Okay, let's tell them again where to go to see the trailer and get the film.
Yes, please. Go to artoftheinsult.com, artoftheinsult.com. You got to go and just watch the trailer at the very least. You can buy the DVD right there, and you'll just have a fantastic time. You watch it with your friends, and you just laugh for 95 minutes, but you end up learning great lessons in marketing and branding, and you understand Donald Trump and what he's really all about for the first time.
Wonderful. Thanks, Joel. It's great to talk to you again. You take care of yourself.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff. All the best.
Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Trump, the art of the insult. And I think when you see the trailer, you'll figure it right out. See, I've been telling you. How many times have I told you? She's not talking about a woman who's going away. She is going to try again. You watch.